This sporting great has proved himself the greatest Olympian that Britain has ever produced. With the medal collection bulging at the seams, this man simply doesn't know when to stop, as next summer in Sydney, he's going for his 5th consecutive gold. He is Steve Redgrave. Steve, it's one heck of a title. The greatest Olympian that Britain has ever produced. Does that literally swell you with pride?
It's something I don't really try to think about. You set yourself a target of trying to achieve something, and when you're still sort of setting yourself targets, as I am for Sydney, you're sort of aiming for that and not really thinking about the things that you've achieved before. I think that's very important, to try and keep your feet on the ground, because very easily you could drift away on the crest of a wave in some respects. And maybe when it's all over and you sit back and see what you've actually achieved, then it could be very different.
But I put it to you, you must have thought about it, even if you're not thinking about it at the moment, or else why would you pursue it? Are you pursuing it to be Britain's greatest Olympian, or is it something else that's driving you?
No, I'm not trying to be Britain's best Olympian or to set any records on that side. But I think when it actually comes down to it, you do something for a long period of time, it's got to be for enjoyment. Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to do it for long periods of time. And over my career, obviously, I've been doing it for a long period of time. So there's got to be something more than just breaking records. And over that period, I've had very few gaps within it. But the few times that I have had away from the sport, I've been itching to get back into it. And so that's got to be for the enjoyment. And if you're good at something, then you might stick at it a bit longer as well.
Well, Steve, let's go way back. What has the road been like that was involved in securing that title?
Very tough in some respects. It hasn't been so straightforward. People look at you and see you now and what I've achieved in the last sort of 10, 15 years. But the early days were very hard indeed, as that I stumbled, come across the sport really. I went to a Great Marlow Comprehensive School. The head of the English department, a guy called Francis Smith, was very keen on rowing. He used to help out on school sports days, and he started a small boat club from the school, and he used to go around and ask a few people if they were interested in giving it a go. And he used to sort of basically hand-pick people, and he used to look at their hands and feet, and if they had big hands and feet, the potential that you're going to grow into a big person. And so as a 13, 14-year-old, that I was basically chosen to row because of the size of my hands.
You weren't aware of you had big hands at that stage?
No, not at all.
Or the PE teacher wasn't selecting you to be a goalkeeper or anything like that?
I used to play in goal when I used to play on the school team, but no, I just sort of stumbled across the sport. Living in Marlow, the big social day is Marlow Regatta, but Marlow Regatta to me as a kid meant that the fair came to Marlow for 4 days, and people went out on the river and did some rowing races on Saturday. But from Thursday through to Saturday evening, there was this big fun fair that came to town, and that was Marlow Regatta for me. On
the few occasions I've been to a gym, you go there and the instructors say to you, the complete exercise for keeping fit is rowing. And you get one of these machines, you know, with the propeller in it and whatever, and the chain. What is it about rowing and the technique involved that makes it the complete exercise?
As a kid coming through, that I was always told swimming was the best exercise because it used most of the muscles. Now I've sort of learnt that rowing does use more muscles than swimming. And but because there's a technique to it, most kids learn how to swim at a young age. So swimming is an excellent exercise that everyone can do. But rowing, because there's this the skill level of doing movements that you've never done before, it is quite difficult to pick up. But then sort of rowing machines have come along, and you've got these flywheels being pulled by a handle connected by a chain, and it's made it for the masses to be able to use, because it's stable. Because the hardest thing about rowing is you do it on a boat that's very narrow, very thin, and very unstable. So most of the time, is when you're learning the sport, is that you could end up in the river and not on it. So these rowing machines
and
are excellent.
Does that happen? I mean, which, you know, you then end up combining both sports, the swimming and the rowing. But Have you been dunked a few times?
Once or twice I've fallen in, not too often.
Yeah.
When you learn, you learn in very wide boats. We teach actually people to row now on the rowing machines, and you start off in wide boats, and as your skill gets better, you go to narrow boats. And the smallest of all the boats is the single sculler, where actually you're not sitting in the boat, you're actually sitting in it. It's about 18 inches at its widest point and 32 feet long. So they're very fine, long boats and very, very sensitive, and it's impossible to sit in one without the blades on the water to balance it. And so it's the skill of the movement of the boat and getting the blades clear off the water while it's moving to stop you falling out.
Your Olympic success and much of our realisation as members of the general public about rowing began with the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984. What do you remember about those?
I remember the final like it was yesterday. The build-up to it was short and intense in some respects. As a country, we hadn't produced a gold medal success within rowing since 1948, and suddenly 6 weeks before the Games we become favourites to win the gold medal. And at that Olympics you had the Eastern Bloc boycott of the Games, of tit for tat of the Moscow Games, where the Americans and some of the other countries boycotted it, and so it was depleted, and our sport was very much sort of dominated by the Eastern Bloc countries. So it was taken away. We were fortunate enough that at the last international regatta before that Olympics, we beat the East Germans, who were the best crew around at the moment, and broke the world record, and that's when it sort of shoved into being favourites to win about 4 or 5 weeks before the Games itself. And of never winning anything major before that time. I'd been to junior championships, I've been to a couple of world championships, but never really had any major success. To be favourites to win the Olympic Games is pretty daunting. And I remember sitting on the start of that day and thinking, well, can I actually do this? I know that we're capable of winning this, but have I got what it takes to do it now at this very moment to try and win this race?
Great Britain with a very heavy crew, just about 14 stone 10 per man average, and Britain rode through the mist with now only about 100 metres to go and very nearly a half a length advantage and the gold medal in sight. But the Americans are responding. Britain hold them. Britain first, the United States second, and this could be Britain's first gold in the Olympic rowing of 1984. They've now got 20 metres to go, and Britain are going to win the gold. Britain first, the United States second. They cross the line now, and there is gold for Great Britain. Martin Cross, Richard Budgett, Andy Holmes, Stephen Redgrave, Adrian Ellison, the Cox, and those are names that will go down in the history of British rowing. Jubilation among the other members of the British squad here watching. Anguish, agony, but also ecstasy for Great Britain.
Now that was the Coxed Fours. What's the secret of that?
It's difficult to say what secrets to any of that. I don't think there is any secrets. It's down to a lot of hard work, having the right combination of people at the right time in the right place. We were very fortunate that we stumbled across the crew for that Games. That my aim was always to trying to be the single sculler. I wanted to represent the country and try and win a gold medal at the Seoul Olympics in a single scull, and that's where I was supposed to have my Olympic success, and it came all a little bit too early, or a bit too early. It was 4 years before that, and because of politics at the time, it was a very difficult situation of everyone thinking, well, we haven't had success in the past, and we've got to do it this way. And I sort of stepped back from that, thinking, well, no, we've got to do it a different way. And it came down to a decision of, do I carry on in the single scull? And looked at the opposition at that time, and you had the 2 times Olympic champion that actually won at that Olympics as well to become a 3 times Olympic champion, Pertti Karppinen from Finland. And the guy that used to win all the world championships in between those times was Peter Michael Colby from West Germany, who were still at that Olympics. So I thought, well, at this stage, I don't think I can beat them. So at best, I could come third. And this four that I started to rowing and had a few outings with looked like it could do quite well. And at the early stages, you think, well, East Germany are going to be out, Russians are going to be out. The chances are that we could win the gold medal.
Now, you were dragging this sport, kicking and screaming, to a much more professional era then. Now, what was your professional approach? When you say your training was more professional, what would that involve?
Well, up until that time, most people worked, and they used to be part-time employed or full-time, and so they used to do one outing a day, one training session a day, and because time was short, that used to be very intensive, but sort of 45 minutes hit it hard and sharp.
And was that what, in a boat or outside a boat?
That would be a mixture. It would be during the summer, it would be in the boat, and during the winter it would be in the gym. You try and get in the boat as much as possible. Weekends used to be the biggest part of rowing at that time, and we looked at what other countries were doing. The top people in Eastern Bloc countries and Western Bloc countries that were doing extremely well at that time, and what they seemed to be doing was doing a lot more mileage. And the same mileage makes champions. And but we didn't know quite what they were doing within their training sessions, so we had to make it up. And where we used to train short periods of time, very intensive, it became impossible to do that intensity. So we used to do more time in the boat than out of it, and the intensity dropped because of it. But overall, the standard went up.
1988 and Seoul, you were really getting on the map, and it was becoming very to the forefront of the public conscious, of course, with Andy Holmes. What is the secret then when you're there, you and another rower? What is the secret of a good partnership?
Well, Andy was in the four as well in Los Angeles, and in '85 I went back into my single sculler and trying to achieve the things that I wanted to do. I had a very bad season, and Andy gave up after the '84 Olympics, and then in '86 we had the Commonwealth Games, and Andy wanted to come back to try and be Olympic, World and Commonwealth champion all at the same time, and he started rowing with other people, and it wasn't going very well, and because I was going through a very poor time performance-wise sculling, that we decided that we would try and go to the World Championships and win the World Championships in the pair. And there wasn't really sort of look on, well, let's go on to Seoul or whatever. It was just that one-off event that we were trying to do. I felt that I wanted to do the Commonwealth Games in my single scull because of all the effort I put into it. And the Commonwealth Games was actually the last sculling race that I ever did seriously. And it was probably my best ever race in a sculling. I actually broke some barriers down at that point and won the gold medal there.
He's now got maybe 2.5 lengths advantage over Powell of Australia. And this is a triumph which Stephen Redgrave will savour. Gold medal in the final of the men's single sculls at the Commonwealth Games.
As things turned out, we actually did 3 events, or I did 3 events, Andy did 2 at the Commonwealth Games, and we did the pair and the 4, and we won all 3 of them. And then 2 weeks later went to the World Championships and won the World Championships. And then that was such a great feeling of doing that. We're thinking, well, let's go on to the Seoul Games and to try and win there. But we had then this aim of not trying to do 1 event, but trying to do 2 events.
250 metres to go now. Holmes and Redgrave from Neagu and Dobre of Romania, with the Yugoslavs in 3rd. Holmes and Redgrave attempting the double gold challenge, coxless and coxed pairs. This is the first. They had a tremendous day in semi-finals when they had to row 2 races in under the hour, and this is when it will tell. Can they hold the Romanians? Romania, that number 4 bow coming back at them, but it's half a length, and it remains half a length. Holmes and Redgrave holding on. There's gold here for Britain. Holmes and Redgrave from the Romanians. The Yugoslavs in 3rd, and it looks as though Holmes and Redgrave have cracked them. They've increased the lead. It's going to be nearly a length. Holmes and Redgrave win for Britain. Romania second, Yugoslavia third. But that is a superb achievement. The world champions add the Olympic medals to their collection.
Then came Barcelona, 92. Your preparation for that, though, badly affected by something called colitis. Tell me what colitis is. Colitis
is inflammation of the large intestine. It's basically that the large intestine gets very sore, very inflamed, and can't hold on to anything. You take quite a lot of goodness through the intestines, and you can't hold on to that, and it passes straight through you. And obviously that's a lot of energy that you need that you're not getting. So my energy sources were going down very quickly, and it took a long time before we worked out what the problems were. We'd been to South Africa for a training camp, and I'd come back with food poisoning, and there was a salmonella trace that we'd done in a test, and that sort of threw a spanner in the works in some respects. And it was just a number of weeks of just going on and having the same sort of symptoms. And I remember going along to see the specialist, and he sort of reeled off a whole list of all sort of things he could be. And at the bottom of the list was ulcerative colitis. And he said, I don't think it would be that from what you told me. We did a few tests, and it actually came back that I did have ulcerative colitis. And this was literally 10 weeks before the Games itself. And
did you write yourself off at that stage?
It was too close to write myself off. I was determined that I would get through this problem. But learning afterwards that Matthew, who I was rowing with, Matthew Pinsent, I was rowing with at the time, had spoken to Jürgen and had said, well, we're getting close now. Obviously we're not performing as well as we're doing, and Steve obviously isn't to the standard he should be at. What's going to go? What's going to happen? And Jürgen said, our coach said, we'll give him another 2 weeks and assess it then. As soon as I was diagnosed of what the problem was and started getting onto the course of tablets to correct it, the performance started coming back. I think the key issue with the whole of that period is that however ill I was during that time, I never stopped training. I wasn't performing very well, but I kept training and training very hard. So when things started coming right, all the fitness was all there because I hadn't stopped. I hadn't sort of given into it. And so things came back very, very quickly.
So when you went to Barcelona, were you a sick man? Were you a weak man? Were you a below par Steve Redgrave?
Coming into it, that we didn't do the last 2 races. We'd been beaten at the race before that, the second international regatta of the year, and we got beaten quite badly. To my surprise, the selectors then selected us on our performance, the worst performance that Matthew and I ever did, and we got selected to go to the Olympic Games before it. But obviously that they knew that if we got back on track, that we were capable of doing major things.
And thankfully you did.
And we went away and trained very hard and concentrated our efforts on that and forgot all the other races. You had doubts coming into the Games. I felt better, I felt stronger. The times that we were doing in training seemed that we were back on track. But you don't know until you're in that race situation under that pressure if everything will hold up. You never do a training piece at that intensity for that period of time.
250 metres to go. The blue and white boat of Great Britain with Stephen Redgrave in the bow and Matthew Pinsent at stroke. The pair from Leander, coached by the former East German coach Jürgen Gröbler, coming home to give Stephen Redgrave his 3rd Olympic title. They have now 100 metres to go. Redgrave and Pinsent, Olympic champions beyond all question, in style, in manner, in behaviour, and in time. Pushing home now with clear water. They've got 3 lengths to spare. There are the British Olympic champions. Matthew Pinsent gets his 1st Olympic title, Stephen Redgrave his 3rd, Germany are 2nd, Slovenia are 3rd, and there is history made again.
And the Olympic Games got better as well. Not only gold, but an Olympic record with Matthew again in Atlanta in '96.
That's right. The British team as a whole wasn't performing as well as it should do. Normally we win 2 or 3 gold medals in that first week, and our finals are right in the middle of the Olympics, and we'd won nothing. And everyone that had the potential was just falling short of it. And you're thinking, well, is this going to happen to us? One of the guys in the flat that we were staying in Atlanta came down with a virus, and we were actually moved out and stayed in a hotel nearer the course, away from this problem. Ours was the first gold medal to be given out after the bomb at the Olympics. And we woke up in the morning and turned on the TV, and it was all the news about this bomb. And you're thinking, what's the Olympic Games coming to? Yes, it's a major event. It's something that you've prepared for such a long time. But people look like they've lost their lives because of this a media event and someone trying to make a point of some sort. You think, why? What is the point? And then you have to go through the mental process of thinking, well, if the games aren't stopped, what do we do? Do we still go out and race, or do we not? Do we walk away from it? And then you think, well, if we walk away from it, we've put a lot of time and effort into trying to do this. If we don't race and win that gold medal, somebody else is going to go and do it, so why shouldn't it be us? So it's all these mental things that you have to go through. So the crossing the line in Atlanta was very much a relief. A job well done, very satisfied, but relief that it was over.
And Redgrave and Pinsent are holding the Australians. The Australians are making their effort, but they are not going to do it. The Brits are on their feet, and Great Britain are heading for the gold medals. Stephen Redgrave is making his way into Olympic history. Matthew Pinsent is adding to his lustre. They are now absolutely flat out. The Australians are coming at them, and the Australians have bitten something back from them, but not enough. Great Britain, gold medals! Stephen Redgrave, Matthew Pinsent, mission accomplished.
How fantastic, what a wonderful result. They really took that race. They had to hold on for grim death down that last 200 or 300 metres. They finished at 44 plus strokes a minute. They fought all the way, and just look at them. How fantastic.
With the gold medal in Atlanta, that was number 4. 4 gold medals, which would have satisfied any mere mortal, it has to be said. And you did announce that that was it, that you were hanging up your oars, as it were.
Anyone sees me go anywhere near a boat, you've got my permission to shoot me. I do not ever want to get in a boat again. I've had enough.
Then you reversed that decision. Why?
I always felt that I would carry on longer than, or sort of the build-up to the games. I felt that I would carry on, but the last few weeks, we already talked about the intensity and the pressure that we were under. That when we crossed that finishing line, the statement that I made was exactly how I felt, and I did not want to see another boat ever again. But I went away with my family a couple of days afterwards, while the games were still going on for the second week. We went down to Orlando and had to go and do the mouse thing and all that sort of thing, as we'd promised the kids. And I was sitting there around the swimming pool thinking, Sydney, nice place. It's my favourite city in the whole world. The Australian culture of being very much an outdoor culture and a sporting culture. What a tremendous place to have the Olympics. And I felt that I wanted to be part of that. And so we were thinking, well, yeah, I want it. And then you think, well, I've just won a gold medal a few days ago. Yeah, it's going to make me feel that I want to go and carry on again. So I actually left it for 4 months, thinking that I was definitely going to carry on, but wanted to know that it just wasn't the spur of the moment that I was going to carry on, because if I made the decision, I knew that I was going to have to carry on for the 4 years. I wasn't going to just sort of dabble at it for a year and thinking, well, no, I'm not going to do this. It's all or nothing. You tend to think in 4-year cycles. And so Sydney was set in my mind, and 4 months later, which is the longest time I've ever had off from the sport, I was back out there on the river.
Could I just point a few things out between Atlanta and Sydney to come? Since then, you've had your appendix out, and very seriously, I would have thought, you've discovered you're a diabetic. That must have been a heck of a shock.
It was. As an athlete and supposed to be performing at high levels and obviously using the body a hell of a lot, that find out that you're a diabetic and you can't control your blood sugar levels is a major illness. There's no question about that. And my first thoughts of when I was diagnosed is that you think, okay, I've pushed my body to its limits, and now it's saying it's having enough now. Perhaps it is time to stop. And that was sort of seeing my GP, and I was sent off to see a specialist at the General Hospital, and went off there, and it was just still the same day. And sitting in with this guy, I was saying, well, I know what your aims are. I can understand if you want to stop, but in my opinion, there's no reason why you can't achieve the things that you want to achieve.
But how does that affect an approach to a sport which must be very scientific? I mean, it must really complicate what must be a very difficult process anyway.
It does. Obviously, the energy demands that we need is incredible. The amount of effort that put into our sport, especially, is very high, and of now taking insulin, injecting yourself with insulin 5 or 6 times a day. Every time you eat, I need some insulin to react with that to get it
So the
under
easy
control.
option would have been to say that was your excuse. You had an honourable way out.
I never really looked at it from that point of view. The way that I looked at it is that I was a diabetic. With sport or without sport, I was going to be taking injections for the rest of my life. Why give something up that wasn't going to make any difference? Either way, I was still going to have to give myself injections if I did the sport or not. So it became no reason to give up. It crossed my mind briefly, but only for a couple of hours in between seeing the GP and the specialist, really. And then it was sort of determination, thinking, well, this is not going to beat me.
Yeah, you were looking for a reason to go on rather than a reason to give
Exactly.
up, and it worked out the same way. Your wife, as you mentioned there, is a doctor. What's she saying? She's your wife, she cares for you, she's a doctor, she's a professional opinion. What's she saying about all this?
The first thing is she's very, very supportive, amazingly supportive. When I decided that I was going to carry on after Atlanta, I think most people wanted me to carry on. The person that wanted me to stop was my wife. And I remember of a very low moment when I was away on a training camp in South Africa, and of really struggling, very difficult with the training. And I rang home very, very low, and as expected, really saying, well,
Yeah, come on back,
Yeah.
pack your bags.
and she says, no, we're in this together.
Yeah.
You did decide that you're going to try and go to Sydney, and that we're there together to try and do that.
So, next stop, Sydney then?
Yes, I hope so. Hopefully the next 2 years will go quite sweetly. There's no reason why I can't achieve what I want to achieve.
Well, and those are 5 medals, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the whole country when I say to you, Steve Redgrave, give me 5. Thank you very much indeed. Lovely talking to you. Bring us back 5.